College Football After Dark, College Football Championship Edition, or so we thought. It wound up being a retro Mike Tyson fight against a guy we never heard of. George Whitfield, Clint Stoerner, Christian Hackenberg, driven by Trevor Valise and Dagan Hughes. Fellas, I mean, reasonable people could have thought George was going to win this. But, I mean, this is that lunchroom fight or that after-school fight where you're like, you didn't have to do him like that. Clint, you didn't have to do him like that. They made sure no one else from that side of the school would ever walk in the hallways voice raised. Everybody watch your tone. 66-7. How we
doing? Look, let's be honest. It shouldn't be this bad. Somebody, somewhere along the way, somebody at TCU, Sonny Dykes, Max Duggan, somebody at TCU has pissed off Kirby Smart. I mean, Kirby Smart is working on his vertical passing game, up 35 points. And then all of a sudden he's working on his nickel defenders timing on for a blitz up 52 or 59-7. I mean, it didn't have to be this bad, man. They didn't have to do them like that. Somebody pissed somebody off along the way. You know how you go. I remember this right here. I remember we played Texas in the Cotton Bowl back in the day. And I remember, you know how in the bowl games you do events with the other teams. I'm pretty sure they probably don't do that here, but you do events and you do banquets and shit with the other team. Mm-hmm. Chris Sims and them Texas Longhorns act like their shit didn't stink for a damn week. And we were mad at the Hornet when we went out there and played them boys. We didn't beat them by 59 points, but it definitely was added incentive to go out there and play hard. Them damn TCU Horned Frogs, they pissed somebody off, didn't they?
Somebody. Georgia. I'll go with you, Hacking it, and then I'll add my little parsley on the back end of it.
Yeah, I mean, Clint, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, they got 600 yards of offense to TCU's like 170 or something like that. This is insane. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this, and I think it's going to be a damn long time before we see anything like this again from a national championship perspective. I don't want to discredit what TCU did this year. I thought that overall you watched, and I said this in the pregame show, one of the coolest transformations and finding of oneself from a team standpoint. But ultimately they ran into a Georgia team, and whether or not this Georgia team was motivated or pissed off by something that did get out, they ran into something that was, I mean, this looked like the damn Little Giants playing what was that guy's name? Icebox and the Cowboys. This was insane. I mean, I'm at a loss for words. I couldn't even imagine trying to call this game. I couldn't imagine you talked about it, George, Kirk Herbstreit and those guys trying to call this game. This is tough to watch.
Hey, Hack, right about now, if me and you was calling this game, we'd be talking about Max Duggan's girlfriend and Stetson Bennett's mama. That'd be the topic of conversation right now.
I'm telling you what, man. Dude. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to do.
Hey, I am, George, real quick. I am proud of my boy Max Duggan. He's having a rough night. But I am damn proud of him. That's Ginger Nation, baby. You see that red hair he keeps running his fingers through? I mean, I'm damn proud of that Ginger right there, able to not only quarterback in a national championship game and overcome all them odds, but he somehow stumbled into a beautiful woman along the way, man. That's that Ginger Nation. That's that power, baby, that Ginger Nation. Come on, I see you, Max.
Is that still Ginger?
Oh, it's Ginger. We mean steel. The hell you mean steel?
I'm trying to. The light didn't,
Well, these filters and shit, they don't do you right. Let that sun hit this, baby. It's that nice Auburn. A lot of women out there, George. A lot of women out there pay high dollar to have this stuff right here now.
Oh, yeah, there's a market for it, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I tell you
yes, sir.
I've never seen a market for an ass whooping like this. I really haven't. From a football side, I thought watching TCU battle and beat Michigan probably sobered Georgia up a little bit last week for the week of preparation. And then they got here based on an Ohio State missed field goal. Now, they won the game, but they were in a position, they were in a vulnerable position in the last play of the game. It either goes in or doesn't go in. Now they're here, and that's enough. That's sobering right there. Both those two things. These guys we're going to come up against beat a team we thought we were going to have a rematch against.
Yeah, look, I mean, when you're talking about this game, I mean, you knew coming into it, right, that TCU was going to need to catch a couple of breaks.
Yeah.
And instead of them catching the breaks, they not only didn't catch the breaks, hell, they turned around and gave Georgia 2 of them early in the ball game.
They don't
and
need
that. You're not going to, if you're TCU, if you're a Big 12 football team, if you're a Pac-12 football team, you're not going to play an elite Big 10 or an elite SEC team and be able to go out there and hand them an early lead and hand them turnovers early in the ball game. You're going to have to get a couple yourself, and you're going to have to go blow for blow. You look at this ball game; it was 24-7, and TCU had the ball, and they had a great call with the Quentin Johnston kid. Quentin Johnston kid running right down the middle of the field versus cover 2, and it was that wide cover 2 where they invert the safety down. I mean, it was beautiful. The receiver read it perfectly. The quarterback didn't. If he hits him in stride at 6, he threw it over his outside shoulder. It ended up being a pick. That right there, to me, was when the game got completely out of control.
I don't even know if I just thought he just got back there, saw a flash of white, and just said, I'll just chuck it down there. Please make a play.
It was the same coverage. It was the same exact coverage that I think it was Philly. It was a pick that Dak Prescott threw over the middle of the field. And I when I saw it, I thought it was like a quarters coverage and a safety just sitting because that hash safety just sat at the snap.
But they had actually
he's spying too, though. He's coming down and spying, and they're kicking a corner over the top. It ends up being a cover 2. It ends up being a Tampa 2 invert is what it ends up being. So instead of the middle linebacker running the middle of the field, they shift the safety down and swing one over the top, and you have cover 2 with that middle 2 Tampa defender. And so it's just but the receivers, because of the safeties coming, the middle defenders coming out of center field, he's coming from high. The safeties play ultra wide. Right. And so it's a home run if you can hit it. If you can ID it and you can hit it down the middle, it's an absolute home run. And the quarterback didn't see the coverage. He got fooled, which hell. I mean, that's the disguise is awesome, man.
Wildly inaccurate. They needed that, not just from a tactical standpoint to get that. I mean, it's a touchdown if he throws it on time. It's a 50-yard completion if it's anywhere decent. But you also needed that for fight purposes, for fuel, for your sideline. You needed that overhand right. It's one thing to be taking shots, but I'm also trading some back with you. But to feel that you're landing some stuff, it gives your defense a little something. It gives everybody on the sideline a little something. When that pick and the safety was like, is he really? The safety was tracking with Johnson. He steps back 2 steps, makes the pick.
Yeah.
Oh man, they were so complete. They were so complete tonight. And again, line of scrimmage, like Bennett, clean pockets. They had to respect the run game. There were times, I think it was into the early third quarter, certainly all the first half, Georgia averaged 10 yards of play, 10 yards a clip. And they're not doing a whole bunch of exotics. ISO, stretch, power, a couple counters.
The other crazy thing about that, though, too, George, is that, I mean, Georgia did catch themselves in a couple, I mean, quite a few 3rd and longs. I mean, 3rd and 8 pluses. Yeah. But it was like no flinch, man. They just were like, all right, cool. We're going to play 7-on-7 here. And Stetson just delivered. I mean, it was even when TCU thought they had them on the ropes and thought they had them behind the sticks, and this was a turnover possibility, it was just a dagger over the middle to Brock Bowers. It was like clockwork.
Dagger. Let's go
it
to
was
that.
like clockwork.
Because I have been chief among them saying Bennett is really driving an Army tank, and he is. But he is also a very good driver of that tank. It's never in a ditch. He threw a dart on a dagger. I think it came from left to right, second window shot, but he threw with conviction, Clint. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gets guys wide open. I think his first or second touchdown to I forget what 84's name was. I mean, that dude just get it in his vicinity. But he when he does put his foot in the ground with that experience you guys have been talking about and throws with conviction, you know what that's like when you feel something and you're like, press the button. Smash the button. Let's go with it. He is at that level now. He is at that level now with this team, with this system. I know what my coaches want me to do. I know where my guys are supposed to be. I'm running this shit. I'm running this shit. And
hey, I really am. I really am interested in seeing what this 2-year run does for Stetson Bennett at the next level. I really am. I know he's undersized. I think you couple his size along with how small Bryce Young is. And I'm not putting him in the same category as Bryce Young. I'm just saying size is going to be something that people look at as we move forward here and aren't just over concerned with. And I'm going to be honest with you. I was the first guy a year ago, damn near to the date, where they were leaning on Stetson Bennett to throw the ball about 11 times a ball game before the SEC championship last year. Yeah, since that game, he has come out and lit it up. And I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Like tonight, I'm watching that ball game, and he's spinning the ball around the park really, really, really well. I don't think we give him credit enough for. I'm talking about the arm strength, the arm talent, throwing the ball off platform. I mean, it's not next level. It's not all world. It's not. But man, he's spinning that son of a bitch, man. Oh. I mean, it's impressive.
It's solid. I don't know how much his ceiling is, but his floor keeps getting better and better and better and better and better. You could put him out there. You know what you've got. Is there a comp to him in the NFL? I mean, he's headed in that direction. Age-wise, it's Lamar Jackson.
Hell, he's as old as a couple of guys that have been there for 4 years, isn't he?
That's really, truly. Stetson Bennett, Lamar Jackson, the same age. Hack, you talked a little bit about that as being an asset, though, coming in.
Yeah, no, I think he's a huge asset. I think his age is an asset. I think his experience is an asset, and I think the confidence he has right now is massive for him. And to your point, I don't think anybody's drafting Stetson Bennett to be their franchise guy, right? But I think they're drafting Stetson Bennett as an asset to their football team, a guy who knows how to win, who's been in a winning culture. Right. Who, to your point though, Clint, isn't gonna necessarily. He's not like deficient enough to where you're sitting there going like, this guy can't play. I mean, there's guys on Sundays playing right now that he could do what they do and how they do it. It's just, I think that element of like keeping him confident, getting him in a building and understanding his role. He could play for a really long time as that guy that's just in your quarterback room, smart, tough, competitive, going to push people. And then if he has to play 2 or 3 games, he's going to win you ball games. And who the hell knows? He might run into a situation where he gets a run, gets hot, turns into a Kirk Cousins or a Case Keenum type of situation.
Or a Brock Purdy.
Yeah, good right. Or a Brock Purdy. Yeah. I mean,
if Brock Purdy's doing
100%, man. If he gets in the right situation, it'll be great for him. But I think either way, with his skill set, his experience that he has in his career at this point, a lot of NFL GMs are looking at him as a valuable asset to their team, just as a really good safety belt that they're never going to have to overpay for.
Heck, you're spot on, man. I mean, look, Skylar Thompson just won a damn game and got a team into the playoffs.
Yep.
I mean, Brock Purdy's out there balling. Yep. Yeah. I'll tell you, I got you one. We've been talking a lot about small quarterbacks here in Houston because we were hoping the Texans get the number 1 overall pick and take Bryce Young. I liken him to Russell Wilson.
Who?
Stetson Bennett.
Interesting.
I mean, that's a high ceiling. I'm just saying a guy that we've seen play a lot. You're talking about a guy that he's not going to just camp out in the pocket and throw your route tree. he's not going to throw the comeback to the wide side of the field consistently. A guy you're going to have to move around, a little bit undersized. He gives you an advantage. Hell, he outran a damn a college football playoff linebacker in a fast defense from TCU. Outran him on a 3rd and 10 tonight for 12 yards. I mean, to me, that's kind of the ceiling for a guy like Stetson Bennett. You get in the right system where all the pieces are in place. The expectation is for you to be a backup, and then all of a sudden the starter goes down and your intangibles kick in and you're able to just, like you said, drive the ship.
He's got a lot of Fitzy to him. It's like Fitzpatrick. And he reminds me a lot of a guy who played before me at Penn State and Matt McGloin, who he won a couple games for the Raiders. He's just fiery as shit. Guys going to play for him. And he's got he's just got,
Remember Keenum got hot against the Vikings for the Vikings.
Yeah.
Hey, here's the thing too, though, George, and this all there's not very many guys that can do this and are this lucky. But what this cat's done the last 2 years, what Stetson Bennett has done the last 2 years, when he walks into an NFL locker room, nobody's going to look at him and go, man, look at that little bitty shit. Who is that guy walking in the door?
No.
Yeah.
They're all going to go over there and be like, hey, man, respect. What I just watched you do the last 2 years, man, respect. Good to have you in the locker room.
Every NFL player is watching tonight.
No question.
They're all off. It's college football's night tonight. And once again, on the biggest night, back-to-back years, this dude is the one to close the curtain down. It's this.
Isn't it crazy to think that that's where we're at? I mean, literally a year ago, I'm going, this sumbitch is throwing the ball 11 times a game. And now I'm sitting here and I honestly feel like watching him play and watching him spin the football. If he was 6'3", if he was 6'3", 6'4", he'd be right there with Will Levis and CJ and Bryce right now.
So let me ask you this then. We kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, Clint. We were kind of BSing, but I don't think you heard the question. I want to get it from both you guys. Who gets drafted higher, him or Max Duggan?
Ooh. I bet you it's him.
Just off of the intangibles. Is that what you're saying? He's so intangible rich, resume rich.
Yeah, I mean, you're just the resume rich is the right way to put it. I mean, Max has been impressive for a year. Stetson's blown it out of the water for 2. I think Stetson throws the football better than Max right now. I think he's as impressive, if not more impressive, throwing the football. I think the resume, I think the way the ball comes off his hand, I think all of that is going to push him ahead of Max Duggan. I think that's my opinion. I'm not slighting Max in any way, shape, or form. I just think Stetson. You want to talk about somebody that's made himself some money? I know we talked a lot about C.J. Stroud's game against Georgia, and while it was a great game, it was the best ball that I've seen C.J. Stroud play. And I think C.J. Stroud established himself as the number 2 in this draft with that performance. It was lights out. I mean, I'm in on C.J. Stroud being an NFL quarterback now. From that, I'm talking about being able to do it all. When you look at what he was able to do, I think that was impressive. But I'll say that Stetson Bennett has done more for his draft stock over the last 3 or 4 ball games than anybody in the country.
I agree, because he went from kind of a really cool, nice, notable free agent earlier in the year, mid-year, to now. I still don't think he's going to be a first day.
No. Stetson?
Be a second day guy. I think it'd be like around 5, 6, 7 to a playoff team with a nice veteran quarterback and a winning coach. Go in there and get situated. Let me ask you guys this question. If we switched quarterbacks tonight, what would the result look like? Stetson comes out leading TCU's attack. Duggan as
them dogs would be eating frog legs anyway you slice it.
Yeah.
Either way.
We talked about this earlier on the pregame show too. I said this. I think the quarterback position is the most dependent position in sports. You're only as good as what's around you, top to bottom, from play calling, management, culture, and then the playmakers around you. And I think you give Duggan what Stetson's had the benefit of having. I think he wins this game. And we're talking about him right now, right? And that's not slighting Stetson. He's obviously maximized his opportunities, but to me, I agree with you. I mean, I think the whole situation was leaning towards Georgia in the first place. Stetson's just been a beneficiary of that, and he's done some things on his own to also, expand upon it and create some separation. But I think Max would have benefited the same way.
Speaking of Max, what did this playoff run do for him? He got hot in the Big 12 championship game. I mean, he really carried them, and he's got a story too now. He's already been a predominant starter for the last 2 seasons before Coach Dykes gets there. Coach Dykes comes in, evaluates both quarterbacks in camp. Max, you're 2. First game, football dictated. Max, you're back to 1. And then he goes on this run against Kansas State. He looked like Tebow. They kept calling him Tebow. Michigan, he didn't have so much of that William Wallace to him, but he led, made the big plays when he needed to. He's still not like a high volume thrower, more of like a home run, strikeout, home run, foul off, home run type of guy.
Yeah. Hey, G, to me, we watched, and you brought him up earlier, Hack. To me, he's very Sam Howish to me.
Oh, love something going deep, but either not the patience or processing to work his way across a full field read type of deal, or accuracy. And then they don't really even play like that. I'd be curious what the offense looks like. If is this system tailored to him, or is he doing what Dykes wanted? Like, did Dykes want to play this way? You don't really.
It don't matter ultimately. I mean, it's a heavy air raid system that they're playing in. That shit ain't gonna translate to the NFL. I think his game does, though, right? I mean, I think his game, to me, his game stylistically is very Sam Howell. His game stylistically is very, and I know people frown upon this, but it's silly to do so. It's very Baker Mayfieldish. In my opinion,
athlete than those 2 guys, though.
Is he?
I think he's a better athlete, and I think they're more accurate than him. I don't even know what his comp would be. I like where you're going.
I just remember Sam Howell being a guy that was thought to be more athletic than Baker, a little bit more athletic than Baker. I just don't know that. Like, I don't watch Duggan and go, boy, that athletic ability is going to translate to the NFL. Like, he's going to have to play on time and in rhythm, and then he's going to, if he does move, it's extending plays. It's not doing what we're watching him do, running that damn read.
Yeah,
and he didn't do that all day today. He didn't do that all night tonight. And that was part of the. I mean, even going back to that post that he missed that you were talking about, Clint. Like, he hadn't settled in, and that was a situation where he got moved off his spot. He had the time to set himself and make that throw, but he didn't do it. He was all leaned back and way out of rhythm, way out of whack, way off center. But he had time to gather it, but he could just never settle in. And real pure passers, in my opinion, accurate passers, no matter what happens in that type of situation, throughout the game, they still find a way to get back into rhythm. He just never could do that.
That's going to be a real challenge for him. And I was going to try to say Daniel Jones, but Daniel Jones, I mean,
no, he
might have his ups and downs, but Daniel, I don't think he's that level. I'd be curious. I do think he drafts him and gets him to camp.
Oh yeah. No, definitely. I think the problem with what they do, and to me, this is an air raid quarterback problem relative to quarterbacks translating to the NFL. Is like, you can tell how Max plays. It's literally catch the snap, and there's no rhythm or timing. It's that's the void we want to get to. This receiver, take whatever route you need to get there, and when you get there, I'm gonna give you the ball. And so you're back there just like, there's no rhythm, there's no one hitch, there's no steps, there's no clock in the head. It's just literally, I'm gonna hold this thing as long as I can, or as long as it takes you to get to that spot. I mean, you never can. That translated really, really well for a guy named Pat Mahomes.
Yeah.
Now, he's still playing that free willy shit, and he's the only one that can do it. He does it at a championship level. So now everybody wants to do it. So I think it's bad for football in general, but he's doing it. He's doing it at a championship level. So it can be done, obviously.
that yeah, it'll take a real creative coach and somebody who says, we'll give him a chance. Come have a seat over here and let's start letting you cut your teeth and we'll get you in when we can type of situation. Let's swing back to Stetson Bennett here. And then I want to ask you both about what this does for Georgia and TCU going forward. TCU, king of Texas, Georgia. I mean, king of the free world and king of the part of the world that ain't free. Stetson Bennett. If you're Stetson Bennett, how are you spending your next 48 hours?
Just like I did last year, baby. My favorite Stetson Bennett moment of all time is when I don't know why I was up early that next morning, but I flipped the TV on and he's on Good Morning America and he is fresh off the streets.
Oh.
My guy's got to one up it this year. He's got to have a beer still in his hand, ready to keep it rolling or something. He's got to one up it this year.
Hey, Hack, did you see that shit though, Hack? Oh, if you didn't fall in love with Stetson Bennett in that moment right there, then hell, I don't know. I think you got bad taste, man. I tell you, that was it. That was it for me, man. That's one thing that I really like about this kid, man. It is. A lot of kids get in that situation and it's almost a turnoff because it's a look at me, it's a gloat, and maybe that's fair, maybe it's not, maybe it's the media doing it to him. But for some reason with Stetson, I truly I get the vibe that it's just like, man, I live my dream being a Georgia Bulldog quarterback, and we just went back-to-back national titles. I cannot believe this is happening to me. Like I really see that when I watch him. It's cool to watch, man.
It's like he's every frat boy's icon.
No question. No question.
Not all quarterbacks. Like the two of you couldn't walk into a frat house and they're like, oh, yeah, you must be one of us. You're different.
Right.
They don't have shoulders like you guys. They're not 6'4", 6'5". If he walk into a frat house and drop his little ball cap down,
hitting right in.
His flannel sleeves like how they do. Oh, man. Hey, yo. Pitch him a beer, pitch one back, do the whole
Hey, Chick-fil-A asked him, what room are you in? He's like, oh, I don't
This is every frat dude's dream because they're all saying the same thing. Well, it's the same as us. Hell, he was playing cornhole here last week. Like, there's too many relatable things to him. And they talked about that like that a little bit with Manziel. But Manziel, he's still different. This dude right here, every frat dude looks at him and is like, oh, hell. Yeah, that's they respect him. And I know they got to think the world of him like we all do. But if he's in the frat house, he's one of us. He's easily one of us. Doesn't he stay in LA tonight, next couple of days, do a little Leno, do a little, hang
No question. No question.
Got to.
Let the team have a PJ waiting for me. I'll get back when I get back. I got some things I can,
Hey, man. Hey, look, if I'm Stetson Bennett, I'm getting me. I'm pulling Caleb Williams. I'm gonna call Caleb and say, hey, man, how'd you do it?
Yep.
Hey, man, I got the penthouse suite. I got all my fellas' rooms on the same floor.
Yep.
We stayed for 2-3 days, and I'm gonna go do all the shows in LA, and then I'm gonna have that PJ waiting, and we're gonna fly to New York, and we're gonna do all the shows in New York, and we'll spend us 2 nights in New York in a penthouse suite up there, and we're just gonna have a nice little 4 or 5 day vacation.
And we're gonna try and get back to Vegas in a week.
Hey, I tell you what, he better take that damn McConkey kid and that damn Bowers kid, because they made some big time catches tonight, didn't they?
And I'm taking my lineman. I'm gonna take y'all over to a little surf shop, get them all some teas. I'm rolling with the crew.
Hey, he's owning the moment right now, man. Stetson Bennett is owning the moment right now, man. You better, hey Stetson, take your ass over there and get your mama out of the stands and get her down there with you, man.
She probably already down there.
No, they just showed her. She's up in the stands filming from her phone, man. Come on.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let me ask you guys this. To the teams, what's this do now for Georgia? What kind of chokehold now do they have? We talked about the Pollock, David Pollock, squaring up to Coach Saban on the pregame set, telling him on national TV, Georgia runs college football now. Remember that? What's the Tom Hanks movie? I love that movie. He's
Captain Phillips.
Captain Phillips. The little African dude was on there, and he made his way on there with that little rickety boat, and he said, "Hey, I am the captain now. I am."
Yeah.
That is the deal right now for the Bulldogs. Or is there much shift? Because I think the only thing that probably neutralizes this is the NIL. Or does this further drive them away from or out ahead of rest of college football?
Look, I mean, they were already ahead of college football and starting to separate with Clemson struggling, with Alabama. Look, I don't think Alabama's struggling, but look, they lost 2 ball games by 4 points, guys. I mean, they very easily could have been in this mix.
Correct.
But let's be honest. If we watch Alabama, they are not the dominant force that they once were. Period. Point blank. No. And so I think Georgia was, if we're being completely honest, and this has done nothing but validate it, I think Georgia was already the best and already separating themselves. But I do want to pump the brakes just a little bit based off tonight's ball game. That was an absolute skull dragging. I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment and act like Georgia just now is so far separated themselves that nobody can get with them. I believe Ohio State's right there with them. I believe Clemson will be right back there with them. I believe Alabama will be right back there with them. And I believe USC's coming. I believe Oregon's coming. I believe there's teams that'll be right there nipping at their heels. I don't overvalue tonight. Hell of a performance. And also on the flip side of it, though, G, like I hope, and like I'm a little bit bothered by the whole TCU. This is why you should pick the best teams instead of the 4 that with the best records and make sure you know. Come on, man. We just watched tonight was bad, but we just watched TCU beat the team that everybody thought was the only other no-brainer in the college football playoffs. We just watched them beat them last week. So while this is ugly, let's not minimize what they were able to do last week in terms of them belonging.
Not to minimize, but Michigan left 21 points on the 1-yard line. How many self-inflicted wounds did they have? Sometimes teams can get beat, and sometimes teams beat themselves. Which one do you think was Michigan last week?
Oh, no, yeah, no, I agree. Michigan did some things that they shot themselves in the foot. But I'm just, and we can literally spend time breaking down every single game. But I just think me personally, I think it's wrong. I think it's unfair to not give credit where credit's due. They got skull drugged tonight, no question about it.
But they earn the opportunity for them to get skull drugged.
That's it.
Hey, but Hack, I think what I feel like, and we talked about this, George. We talked about this last week, it was last week. Like, I tell you what they did, Hack. In my opinion, TCU earned the right to not be talked about like they didn't belong when they beat Michigan.
Yeah.
Now, tonight makes that a hard-ass conversation and a hard point. It makes it difficult for me to make that point. But I don't know, man. They beat – go ahead, George.
It happened in the finals, though. This didn't happen in the semifinals. This happened in the finals. Let's just go to that real quick. Let's go to Clint's point. Hack, I'll go with you first.
Yeah, just
Who's
about
the saltiest. Which of these 3 programs, and if there's another one, tell me.
Yeah.
Who's the saltiest tonight? Michigan, who gave away, and I don't want to disrespect TCU, but so many questionable tactical decisions, so many plays left on the field. Michigan, I'm just going to say it, who potentially gave it away to TCU last week. Ohio State, who had the game, missed the go-ahead field goal to beat the eventual champs, and they saw what the game wound up being. Or Alabama, who didn't even get to face Georgia this year, Clint. And as you pointed out, lost 2 ball games on expiring plays, both on the road. Who's the saltiest of the 3 tonight? Or who should be the saltiest?
In my opinion, it's Ohio State, just because of the situation. And I'm going to try to take what happened tonight out of it, because again, I agree with you, Clint. I think this was one of those outliers in terms of an ultimate result for a lot of reasons. You highlighted a lot in terms of why TCU belonged. And I just think Georgia came out and played. It was a game with a team that had been there, done that, and another team that was a deer in headlights all night long. But I think Ohio State, having taken this Georgia team to the wire, and then the way that they came out here and played against TCU, I think Ohio State would have came out with the same type of fire and prepared. I don't think it would have been this type of result, but I do think that it would have favored Ohio State similarly to how it favored Georgia, at least pregame. So if I'm sitting there at home, Ohio State, especially because of how they lost to Michigan, and especially how well they played against this Georgia team, I think Ohio State's probably the ones that are sitting there biting themselves. But at the same token, I also think that gives Ohio State a little bit more heading into this offseason as well. I think Michigan has a little bit that they got to overcome. And I think Bama's got a little bit that they got to overcome. But I think Ohio State's got a little bit more heading in this offseason now, where they're like, all right, like we were there. And especially Ryan Day. Talk about a guy who's had a lot of really good football teams, a lot of really good players, and just hasn't quite gotten over that hump like Urban did and like Tressel before him did. So he's got to figure out a way how to do that. And I think, as bitter as it is and as shitty as it is that they lost, they're salty, but I also think it works in a positive with the way that, Ohio State probably operates and the way that they do things. So, but if you're picking out those 3, I got the Buckeyes sitting there a little bit sour.
Clint?
Yeah, I'd go with Alabama. I mean, like I said, losing 2 ball games by a total of 4 points, not getting in, not getting a shot at Georgia, and feeling like, you're sitting watching this ball game right here. You feel like you definitely belong more so than TCU. So I probably Alabama for me. But I mean, look, you could pick. I mean, you're not wrong if you pick any of them. I would just ride with Alabama, given the fact that how this national championship game turned out, and how, I feel like when here's the deal is, I mean, here's how I prefer to look at this thing. Like, I think when you look at how it all unfolded, right, I think it was a pretty damn good outcome. You look at Michigan blew the doors off Ohio State. Don't need to get off in the weeds and how it happened. Just it's simple. It happened, right? TCU turns around and beats Michigan. Again, don't need to get off in the weeds. It happened, right? Ohio State comes back and plays Georgia. Should have beat Georgia. Missed a field goal that looked like I was kicking the son of a bitch. But if you make that, then all of a sudden we've got a round robin game of who's your best team.
Correct.
Now
it's
tonight,
Spider-Man meme.
Right. Tonight muddies the waters big time because, team got skull drugged. But really, in all these different head-to-head matchups, did a pretty good job of getting teams in there.
Yeah, they did. And that's why when we do move to a 12-team playoff, as this is brought to you by Field of 12, College Football After Dark, it is going to be interesting to watch a team try to make a run, a 4-game run. That's what it's going to take. I mean, just think about the physicality and the attrition, especially if you don't belong in the Big Ten, if you don't play in the Big Ten or in Jurassic Park, and you got to try to go up against the 12 best teams, and you may have to run through an SEC team round 1 and a Big Ten team round 2. What will you have left? This is going to be a good question, because the Big 12, you didn't hear a whole bunch about that, or at least I didn't catch a whole bunch about that, how the Big 12, like, was this an indictment against the league, or was this the league's opportunity to kind of come in here and get up on the big stage? We haven't seen a Big 12 team in the national championship since Vince Young in Texas. Am I right on that?
Yeah. Yeah, hell yeah. I know OU. Did OU get to one or no?
No, I think those
They
guys
lost in this
playoffs.
We lost in the semis, I think.
In the semis. Baker got him in. I think maybe Jalen did too. So the Big 12 hadn't been here in a minute. But, you know, I don't know if it's style of ball or just those two teams or just TCU found itself in there with the White Walkers. We're going back to that Game of Thrones, you know.
Well, I mean,
analogy, yeah.
Look, G. I mean, here's the deal. I mean, here's what I think we can surmise. Right? Is at the end of the day, if an air raid team is going to win a national championship, they are going to have the elite of the elitists. It's going to have to be Caleb Williams and two or three of the best wide receivers in all of football with a really good dominant defense on the other side of the ball.
Correct.
The bottom line is, I think what's been proven since the college football playoff got there, with OU getting to the playoffs several times, with TCU getting there and making a run. Who else got there in this era is they get there and it's too much of a bloodbath for that style of football.
And the only scenario you're talking about is Joe Burrow's LSU team.
But they had killers on defense.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which was a de facto air raid, but they finished the season with the nation's '1 offensive line. They got the Joe Moore Award. They had how many guys on defense, to Hack's point, get drafted?
I didn't know Joe Brady was an air raid guy.
He's not, but I'm saying when you're back there throwing it 45, 48, 50 times a game, well, maybe not air raid, but your air game leads you. How many national championship teams have we seen that with? Most have been balanced. Even Clemson was, for all the spotlight on Trevor, they were still running the ball. ETN and all the rest of these guys, they were still running the ball for 150, 200 yards.
Oh, yeah. Well, those are – I mean, when you look at like Gus Malzahn and you look at Dabo Swinney, those are all the power spread systems. And then you look at Nick Saban. He is more of really his own kind of a pro-style hybrid system that he like, I wonder what he's going to do now that Alex Mortensen left and Bill O'Brien's going to leave. Who in the hell is going to teach his offense to the next offensive coordinator that comes in there? That's going to be interesting.
You think O'Brien's leaving?
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
So where?
I think he's going. I think he's going to go to New England, back to New England, to be the OC at New England. But I also heard that today that Vrabel is interested in him being the OC at Tennessee, because Tennessee Titans just fired their OC as well.
I saw something on a quick aside on the Titans. All their games look the same. Their games look the same. They either won at 24-20 or they lost at 24-20.
Yeah.
All their games, all physical, all downhill. It's in the mid-fourth quarter. Here comes Henry. He either fell forward a couple times or he got pushed back a couple times.
Yeah, George, back to like the air raid stuff though is different. Like any kind of, and we hit on it a little bit earlier. Like when I'm more physical than you as a wide receiver, and I know in order for this system to work, you got to get to that void over there, let's say 2 yards outside the hash and 10 yards down the field.
Right.
If I'm physical and I get in your face and I force you inside and I push you way down inside, and by doing that, by design, I'm making the quarterback do this.
Correct.
And now I got a deep. There's no timing. There's no rhythm. There's no progression. Now all of a sudden I've got a D line that's bigger than my guys up front, Bama, Georgia's, Clemson's of the world, and now all of a sudden my quarterback's getting pressured. Like I don't know. You gotta be a bad man, coach, to make that right there work 2 times in the college football playoffs. I mean, you got to be cold blooded. I just don't know that's going to get it done ultimately. We'll see if Lincoln Riley and USC can do it. He's got to bolster that defense in a major way, but I just don't know if that's going to get it done. I know we're way off in the weeds here talking schematics and shit, but that's just TCU may have been the best chance for an air raid team to win a national title that we're going to see.
Well, let's stay with TCU. Hack, we talked about this earlier. 12 Division I programs in the state of Texas. That's, football America down there. It was their brand. That was the national championship game. It was their brand. That was all over everyone's airwaves for the last month. Big 12 championship, had a little break. Here comes Michigan. Then we go up against Georgia. They were the ones that brought the state flag in. And they're the only team from the state of Texas to ever make the college football playoffs. And they did it in a 4-teamer. Because here, pretty soon, I don't know how prestigious it is when we start talking about when the deal expands 300%, then what happens? But it was only TCU that was able to do all this. And again, this wasn't a once-in-a-generation team like an LSU team or those Bama teams. These guys were down 7 or 8 times at halftime this year.
Yeah.
How big of a stride and how big of a mark can they maintain off of this past month going forward in Texas, where it counts for them?
I mean, I think they're going to have to. I think that this performance is going to hinder that a little bit. But to your point, when you look at the body of work, it's going to come down to how Sonny Dykes and that staff hits the road and how they portray it, right? Like, hey, they're going to have some explaining to do. But
that's
had they came,
not Clint.
In my opinion, had they come in and give it a little bit more of a fight here, it would have been a different story. But the way they lost, I think they took a little bit of a step back from that. But to your point, they still